All right, guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do an All-Star Superman issue number 5 by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely with Jamie Grant. This is not much of a superhero book, but it's a very good written book. And it's about Lex Luthor, who's been thrown in jail because he's looking up to all these, bad people, and he did some crimes against humanity, right? And he says, do you have any more to say? Says the judge. Well, he says, Superman made me do it. So he just says, well, get this over with. So he's been thrown into jail, and the sentence is death in an electric chair. And then he's smiling. So Clark Kent is now going to do an interview about Lex Luthor, right? And he wants to talk to him. But Lex Luthor, although he's been put into prison, he has now access to, invent stuff. I mean, how? Right? Anyway, so he introduces himself, and Lex Luthor says, yes, I'm aware of your lumbering presence. So he made a robot that's flying around, some Bibliobot Mark II. And, but it also just flies toward Clark, and Clark just, he's clumsy. And I must say, I give credits to the writer to have Clark Kent and Superman, two very opposites of each other, but they are the same person. So I wonder why he does it, but he does it because if he didn't do it, or if he didn't do that, he would probably, Lex Luthor would have been electrocuted. So he says, oh, thanks to my rebel insolus. So anyway, how very ironic is that? Here I am on death row, courtesy of evidence gathered by your newspaper, the Daily Planet. So almost makes us quit, star reporter. How about this pair of fat girls? Somehow they overlooked the high voltage death trap. Anyway, so hey, I get an hour to interview you, to hear your side of the story. I saw the Da Vinci of crime headline. It seems like a compliment, but there's a sneer hidden in there somewhere, isn't it? Follow me, Kent. So I don't know, you could just walk around freely, but he's been watched, right? So he talks about, Superman, and, well, he hates Superman. He says, how does a man like you feel about Superman, honestly? He says, well, I'm fine with him. He's always been friendly around the office. And you don't feel any way diminished by his presence on this planet? Strange. Our jobs don't tend to overlap. So he says, my job as a reporter, right? What is that? What are you writing about me? Unintelligible squiggles. I can mentally crack any code known to man in less than a minute. Time me. But he says it's shorthand. Shorthand? What kind of ridiculous affectation is that for a man? He says, why don't you can use electronic recording devices like any normal hack? What I like about this version of Lex Luthor, he is insulting everyone. And he does that with very much confidence. And he brags about, of course, his accomplishments and his intelligence, because he is intelligent, right? So he talks about, think about it. Without Superman to distract her, you just never know. He talks about Lois Lane. Perhaps cool, cruel Lois Lane might actually have noticed good old Clark sighing faithfully there in the corner. Why aren't you blushing? I know you have feelings for her. I'm just interviewing Luthor. I'm just saying. A tall, strapping Midwestern farmer boy with brains, integrity, and no style of his own? That's a price catch for any cynical city gal. Throw in some weight training, and that flabby physique of yours could even come to rival Superman's build. I'm laughing this whole way through this whole book. It's just great. It's great writing. Anyway, so he also thinks about, that Lois didn't choose Luthor because she never see past him to you, right? Are you trying to intimidate me? We all fall short in that sickening inhuman perfection that's impossible, that impossible ideal. Feel that, Kent. Real muscles, like his. Go on, feel. It's easy to be strong when you happen to have come from the planet Krypton. This takes hard work. So yeah, I also like that he's just, working out and, not only his brains, but also his muscles. Tell him to hands off, Kent. How's Superman these days? Pale? Tired? He's just fine. But he's not. He only looks that way. So yes, he did some kind of a grand plan to kill Superman, because that's what this book is all about, right? Lex Luthor killing Superman. So he's going down to the rest of the prison's inmates. So he says, what is your unhealthy obsession with Superman? I spent so much of my adult life in prison. Thanks to him, it seems like home. Predictable, comfortable. Comfortable? He talks about that these losers here need to have some kind of a mastermind to guide them, right? So what would you do if you had his powers? He says, an alternative to what? And then he answers, but Clark thinks that it's not really about Superman, but more probably what's going on into Luthor's brain. Maybe it's ego, who knows? Anyway, and Lex, these men seem restless. They can feel coming change, the wings of a new human renaissance. I'm transforming this place into a new model of society, Kent, a blueprint for utopian living. Anyway, you have the eyebrow-shaped Butikins called the Superman swoosh. Apparently 65% of men subconsciously trim their eyebrows that way to be more like him. I like it that he's just constantly comparing Superman to other people. And I mean, he doesn't know that he is Superman, but there's a lot of Superman in Clark Kent, although he doesn't show it, right? This is my final revenge, to be right. My survival of the smartest doctrines command absolute respect in here. He has also a pencil, so he grabs this pencil. But then we hear a voice. I got you. Suck you dry, Luthor. Oh, it's the parasite. He doesn't scare me. Brains beat brawn every time. But Clark says, wait, Parasite is here. Now, if you know Parasite's powers, he is, sucking energy, mostly superpowered energy from people. He feeds them, and he gets real strong. Wait a minute. He's safe behind Let's shielding, right? But he's not. But he feeds on nearby energy sources, he says. Why bother to shield him on his way back to the infirmary? So what if he drains a toaster before the screws take him down? What's the matter, Kent? Scared he absorb your last reserves of cowardice? I like him so much. He's so insulting. He throws out these insults like it was nothing. I like it. But he doesn't feel well because Parasite is absorbing Superman's powers in the process. Of course, the rest doesn't know that. Anyway, so the cops comes in, and I don't know, probably more superpowered beings going crazy. Chaos. The phase transition, a necessary first stage in the foundation of any new social order. Luthor, you're in terrible danger. Kent, that's tear gas, you moron. So he goes into the tear gas, right? I'm in danger, he says. You're under my protection now, Kent, in my world. So and then he comes out, he says, oh man, I cannot see. And he not accidentally, he just saves Luthor here, right? Because he knows this guy wants to kill him. And the rest of them has been saved, I believe, on top of the building or on somewhere else. Basically, Superman picked them up and swooshed them away. So I said, follow me, Ken, if you want to live. Never mind your glasses. So he uses then his heat vision to do this, this water pipe, and then uses his freeze breath to stop the inmates. But of course, Lex Luthor doesn't see that. He says, keep it up, Kent. You're part of me. Part of me would happily watching these animals tear apart, you sanctimonious ox. But I want you alive. I want to tell you my story. The story of a man who refused to bend the knee to an alien invader. A man dared ask the question, who does Superman think he is? I would rather talk about your achievements, Lex. Can we stay away from the parasite, he says. I don't think it's safe down here. So, parasite bursts in. Bullets won't stop him. He's converting the kinetic energy into more mass. You're right. Look at him, bloated with power. Nothing left but a mouth and an appetite. Drawn like a moth to some immense energy source. So these inmates says, hey, if you want to be a leader, prove it. Right? Welcome to my cozy middle-class existence. And pray for a miracle, Kent. So, Parasite comes here, but then Clark says, look how there's going to be an earthquake. But he uses his power to stomp on the ground, and Parasite falls through. Again, Lex Luthor doesn't have a clue. So he says, he's choking on energy, stuff bursting like some sickening overripe fruit. My bullets must have tipped the balance, made him too massive to carry his own weight. See what happens to anyone who crosses me, Kent? Anyone who overestimates Lex Luthor? Liquefying. And that's exactly how he look. That's how Superman will look at the end. Nobody threatens me. Nobody gets in Lex Luthor's way. Now, I'm going back a little bit here. So, if you go, let me see. Where was it? So, see what he does here? He touches, some sweat on his face. And then, wait a minute. Where is his eyebrow? And I thought, I didn't even notice because I'm going to tell you the story here. So we're going to move on and come back to this a second ago, in a minute, So, anyone else wants to challenge my ideas? Don't think so. So he's going back to the death row, right, into his cell. You want change? Wait for my signal, he says. And I'll tell you how you helped them me out, quelled the riot. I know you're not all bad. I always liked you, Kent. You're a humble, modest, uncoordinated human. You everything he's not. Again, I like that there is such a distinguish between Superman's behavior and character and Clark Kent. Again, they are the same person, but I think probably Peter Parker is the only superhero I know that actually, has two different personalities, the superhero one and the alter ego. And the writers actually did a fantastic job to separate these two. So compliment to that. And I always like that because many superheroes with alternate identities, are mostly one and the same. Although Iron Man, he's also bragging. Iron Man, everybody knows now who Iron Man is, and also, unfortunately, Spider-Man. But, there was once upon a time that there's also two persons, but I think sometimes Iron Man and Tony Stark are a little bit too similar, because, he's his bodyguard. That was the gist, right? Anyway, there's a monkey in a Superman suit. So, all right. And then he goes down. He says, lovely Jesus, how do you say that? Nastaltia. She's 18 years old, speaks 30 languages, and wants to rule the world one day. Bless her. Call me nasty. Eyebrow, Lexi, eyebrow. What are you looking at, Kent? So he's drawing an eyebrow on his face. And I probably think because he was bald in an accident, he went bald in some kind of a chemical laboratory accident, loses all his hair. So I think this version has no hair, even no facial hair, and therefore he's just drawing an eyebrow on his face. That cracked me up. But then Clark is getting a little bit upset. Why? He says, you and Superman could have been friends. I can't believe you are getting ready to die. Are you insane? I'm born a dictator. You die like a mad dog in the yard. Think straight, Lex. He'll die first. I use the sun itself, Kent, the source of his powers, to overload his cellular batteries and destroy him from within. Do you understand? I killed Superman, he says. He doesn't want the world to know he's dying, of course, so break the news gently. Take you exclusive, Kent. You can't prove this. I place his beloved truth in your hands. Strike with it. You wanted my story, the gospel of Lex, and now you have it. There is no deep psychologically behind the struggle between Superman and me. It's all very simple. How would you feel if someone deliberately stood in your way over and over again? If it wasn't for Superman, I'd be in charge on this planet. And now he's dying. What more could I want? Brilliant. This is a brilliant line. And she says, where to now, Mr. Kent? Oh, look at his face. He doesn't know what to do. Brilliant. This is fantastic writing. Fantastic. I loved every second of it. Leads us to the next issue, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.